Hey everybody, day 11 of Budget Watch 2017. We are near collision here in the parking lot of the Capitol, which is nothing to say for the collisions that are happening inside. So kind of three big news stories today. One, this afternoon, both House and Senate are in recess. The House is on until Monday. Officially up here, they'll have some committee meetings, lots of backdoor stuff, meeting in people's houses, restaurants, whatever. The Senate plans to come back tomorrow. They were only in session for a couple hours today, and then they went to do go to their JCAB meeting. But Scott Inman had a press conference this afternoon and said that they are close on an oil and gas related deal. So we are optimistic and hoping that that's the case. From what we're hearing, I don't know what the deal is. I haven't heard any details about it. But I was just tweeting with Greg McCourtney, and he showed me some tweets that I missed earlier. I missed the press conference because I was actually working. I'm just taking a late lunch right now at 3 o'clock. And what I saw in the tweets was that the Dems are on board if there's a deal with gross production tax, maybe cigarette tax. Fuel tax is off the table unless there's some kind of like income tax thing rolled in with it. Like any deal, I think what most people expect is there'll be something for both sides. It's not going to be an all Republican or all Democrat deal. And let's be honest, man, most of us are just people. Like, we just want to not be terrified about what happens the next week or two, right? As Courtney and I both said, we kind of feel like Charlie Brown when Lucy pulls the football out from underneath. I think we've all felt like that at least once or twice or 75 times this session. So I hope that doesn't happen to the people of Oklahoma anymore, right? This goes back to vision and leadership and what people want their legacy to be. If you want to be known as Dr. No, like Senator Coburn was in the U.S. Senate, then that's on you, I guess. To me, that's not leadership. That's just being in the way of stuff all the time. Certainly there's a time and a place to say yes and a time and a place to say no. Saying no to the people of Oklahoma is never the right time. So that's news story number one, is maybe we're close to a budget deal for part of the budget, a tiny bit in the House. Passing the Senate is going to be another deal, and from everything I've heard this week and last week, it sounds like the Senate needs a push. I think Senator Schultz needs a push. Maybe Greg Treat, floor leader Greg Treat, needs a push to pass some of these things. Kind of related to this, there's a story in Non-Doc today about something that happened on Tuesday evening. I guess a bunch of Republicans were at dinner with some oil and gas lobbyists, including Chad Warmington, who's like the director of the Oil and Gas Association. And what's happened this year is that there's been lots of talk about gross production tax being passed, and it hasn't been passed, it's been talked about a whole bunch, and people keep talking, but no votes. And that has given the oil and gas industry more and more time to get worked up and anxious about this. They've started running attack ads against Republicans that are even like freshmen who haven't even voted on oil and gas ever. They don't have any idea. Even those that live like in the Panhandle or Western Oklahoma, places that are usually like pretty pro oil and gas, right? And so they're at dinner, they're having conversation, talking about this, and some of the reps or legislators that were there said, "Hey, what's up? You guys are running attack ads against us," and it like escalated to a verbal altercation, and they got asked to leave, or at least asked to step out of the restaurant. They're at Mahogany Prime Steakhouse, I think. Nice place, fancier than I can afford to eat at. They get asked to leave because they're causing too much of a scene. While sad and certainly embarrassing on behalf of our state and the oil and gas industry, all that, it is kind of funny to see the fact that oil and gas and Republicans are kind of getting into a fight at a restaurant about attack ads. Like, how about let's not attack each other. Like, let's just do the right thing. But hey, props to the legislators for saying they're going to stand up to the lobby. That's a big deal, and that's what we want to see, especially a lot of these new folks, 42, 45 newly elected folks this year. They're coming here to say, we're trying to do the right thing for the state. You're not going to push us around with your attack ads. So props to those guys. And then the third news story is really kind of the biggest thing, I think, most of the day, and it really has zero bearing on the actual budget. It's just a fringe group of, I think, very conservative Republicans who may be referring to themselves as the Republican Platform Caucus. I've also heard them referred to as the Freedom Caucus, which is what that group was kind of known as in Washington. And so this group of allegedly 22 people, although I've worked all day, and I've had a bunch of colleagues up here trying to find out who these 22 people are. We've got 6 confirmed and 4 other likelies. And that's it. That gives us to 10. I'm starting to wonder if there's actually 22 people or if they're just spouting off numbers to make it sound like there's more of them. I'd love to see some kind of press release. So if you happen to know or have any kind of information about who the other 10 or 12 of these Republicans in the House might be, I'm just curious. If they're going to form a caucus and try to wield some power, I think we should know who they are. So anyway, this group, the Platform Caucus, put out a budget plan, revenue plan that they said would save the state $1 billion. A big part of that plan was like identifying the allegedly 82,000 Oklahoma students, like school children, who don't speak English, supposedly, and referring them to immigration and have them be deported so we don't have to pay for their education. And he even went so far as to say, do we even have to pay for their education? Turns out, like, there's a Supreme Court case back in 1982 that says, yes, you do. This is long-standing. Everyone kind of knows this has been around. And it's preposterous, for one, that there's that many kids that don't speak English. 2, that we would somehow save $60 billion, $60 million on that. And that's just a terror. That's the kind of stuff that we get known for nationwide, globally. If some other country, if you heard a news story about people in Bangladesh or Zaire or somewhere that said they're trying to kick out kids who don't speak the native language so they can save money on their budget, we would lambaste them all over the news. It's a terrible thing. So anybody who's willing to stand up and say that is arguably just not a good person, or their heart's not in the right place. So anyway, that's a sad story. There's lots of other stuff about their budget plan that was pretty terrible. I'm sure you've seen it on the news. It'll be on the news tonight. I'm certain it's on News 9 and on News on 6 in Tulsa, the sister station. If you haven't seen it already on social media, I'm sure you will, or you can watch the news tonight. And then lastly, we also heard about a bill that's come up today, House Bill 1404, I think. So this is it's a request bill, but it's sponsored by the OCPA, the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs, which is up the street here near the Capitol. It's the kind of conservative, right-wing think tank. Though they have lots of opinion pieces, and their data is somewhat questionable, in my opinion, the stuff I've seen. I know their budget plan they overestimated what they were going to save by a high degree. Anyway, they have a plan, an idea now to eliminate the state agencies, all state agencies, tax-exempt status from sales tax, meaning that all the state agencies will have to pay sales tax as a way to generate revenue. This doesn't make any sense to me, because if we use sales tax dollars to help fund our government. So if right now, they don't pay sales tax, so that makes sense. It's a nonprofit, it's a government entity. So if the government starts paying sales tax, let's say, DHS starts paying sales tax, that sales tax gets collected, goes back to the state, and then they use that money to fund the state. So they paid it just to get it back. That kind of circular logic doesn't make any sense to me, right? That's like if I owe you $5 and I say, can I borrow $5? And you give it, and I say, here, I gave you $5, and you're like, no, that's the $5 I just gave you. You're like, no, I gave you $5. It's not the case. You didn't actually get any more money. I just gave you back the money you just gave me. It's a circle. I don't know much about money laundering. I'm not like a criminal, but that seems like it's a slippery slope. I'm not saying it's money laundering. I'm just saying it's a terrible idea. It doesn't make any sense. It's like I have 2 friends that are married, and the wife said, well, it's like if I gave my husband $50 for the phone bill, and he put it in his account, it's the same account. Like I wrote a check and then he deposited it in the same account. It doesn't go anywhere. Why would we do this? This does not actually raise any revenue. So if you hear that this is a revenue bill, it's not. I've not seen any numbers that would support this as substantial increases. It's just kind of ridiculous, and in some ways it would arguably hurt state agencies because they'd have to be spending more money than they do right now. Part of the right-wing conservatives, the Platform Caucus's bill, another thing that relates was that they wanted to do away with all higher education employees or non-instructional, which could be thousands of Oklahomans, like tens of thousands of Oklahomans who, and how do they define that, and what about medical schools? There's lots of questions there. Also, that state agencies shouldn't have any swag, as they called it, which, first of all, swag is an acronym for stuff we all get. That's these marketing materials. So if you had a pin that said the Department of Rehabilitation Services on it, here's the deal. They got to buy pins either way. And a lot of these pins are useful. Like a lot of this marketing material is useful so that people are aware of services. They're aware of state agencies. But it's not like DHS is spending too much money on pins. I guarantee they don't buy that many branded pins, and they're buying pins either way. But it's not like everyone that works at DHS is walking around with like a fancy DHS quill pen. That's not they buy El Cheapo big pins if they happen to get, a couple of hundred with a logo on it to use at a conference. That's because that's the way anything works. So the same folks that argued that government should run like a business then don't want them to do very basic things like let people know about their services. Anyway, that whole Platform Caucus, from what I hear, is a fringe group of the Republican Party in the House only, and there are a lot of folks that have taken effort to distance themselves. Senator David Holt had a very powerful tweet about it earlier that called him out directly. Josh Cockcroft in the House had a Facebook post about it earlier today. I think Dunnington said a few things. Haven't heard anything from the Speaker's office. I sent a couple of messages this morning encouraging someone in leadership to try to squash this because it's just not okay. That's not Oklahoma, right? It's not the Oklahoma standard. There is a great piece this afternoon from the Department of Transportation director about what the Oklahoma standard is and what the Oklahoma substandard is that we seem to be subjecting ourselves to. I encourage you to go read these news stories today and really understand a little bit of a historical perspective about maybe what's legal in the eyes of the Supreme Court and what's reasonable in terms of actual data numbers, and to reach out again to your reps, your senators, and tell them if they're doing a good job. Give them a kudos for taking a hard stand on something. Encourage them to vote for what is best for the people of Oklahoma, and ask them, as I said yesterday, ask them what they want their legacy to be, and really challenge them on that point and make sure that they are thinking long term, not just to 2018, not just to the election. I want to hear some plans, right? Some 10-year plans. Where do we want to see Oklahoma in 2027 or 2037? Let's think. Government moves slow. We got to make a plan that's going to last 10 or 20 years to get us out of this hole and to fund a generation of kids so they can graduate college, in 15, 20 years. All right. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow at some point for day 12 of this thing. Hopefully, Inman says we'll have some budget stuff the next day or two. We get that guy a vest and we can do this video together. Anyway, hopefully we'll have some more positive news for you tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.